Welcome to the video. In this one, we are going to be reading from Miles Mathis and finding out some more about these Hollywood people that we all love so much and where they come from. So, I'm going to go over his paper on Brad Pitts Genealogy. First published November 15th, 2016. As usual, this is just my opinion, except for the stuff I got from Wikipedia and the genealogy sites, which is not just my opinion. I guessed in a recent paper that Brad descended from the famous Pitts of England, and I was right. We're told his father is a truck driver from Oklahoma, or some such nonsense. But we should have known that was misdirection. At Genie.com, his father's line leads directly to William Pitt II, East India Company merchant from Bristol. He is the son of Thomas Pitt of Blandford. Thomas Pitt's brother was John Pitt, and his grandson was Thomas Diamond Pitt. This Diamond Pitt was the father of the first Earl of Londonderry, and the grandfather of William Pitt I, Earl of Chatham. This was Pitt the Elder, Prime Minister twice in the mid-1700s, known for his support of the colonial position in the run-up to the Revolutionary War. In other words, he supported what would become the U.S. His son, Pitt the Younger, was also twice Prime Minister as well as Chancellor of Exchequer. He ran England during the French Revolution. This means Brad Pitt is a not very distant cousin of these very famous Pitts. He even has the same name. Remember, Brad's full name is William Bradley Pitt. He is also related to the Bells, the Hammers, the Morrises, the Hickmans, the Downeys, the Baldwins, the Strodes, the Fishbacks, the Dresslers, the Jungs, the Gardners, the Clarks, the Rockwells, the Marrs, the Atwoods, and the Buttons. Remember Brad Pitt played Benjamin Button in the 2008 David Fincher film? A curious case of coincidence. Not a chance. It is based on a story by F. Scott Fitzgerald, also from the families. The name Strode links him to the British Knights, including William Strode, who was one of 5 MPs arrested by Charles I, sparking the Civil War in 1642. We know these are the right Strodes, since this second William Strode married Anne Button in 1636. We already confirmed Buttons in Pitt's line at Genie.com. The link above goes to Elias Button, father of Mary Ann Morris. The name Baldwin probably links him to the Baldwin actors. The name Downey probably links him to Morton Downey Jr. and Robert Downey Jr. I will be told Robert Downey's family changed their name from Elias to Downey, but that is probably a fudge. Robert's mom is a Ford and his stepmother is an Ernst. His great-grandmother is a Goldberg, and his great-great-grandmother is a Cohen. He is also descended from the Stearns. His mom, Elsie, is scrubbed at Genie, but other places admit she was Elsie Ann Ford, a daughter of John Ford. They tell us this was not the famous director John Ford, born 1894, but some mysterious John Ford, born about 1899. Right. In support of that misdirection, we are told the famous John Ford changed his name from John Feeney. Strange then that John Feeney's parents are completely scrubbed, with names given but no genealogies. Strange that Elsie Ford was an actress. Also strange that John Feeney's brother Francis, a famous actor, also changed his name to Ford. Why would these brothers, who apparently hated each other, choose the same fake stage names? At any rate, the Elias family is said to have come over from Russia in about 1900, which is very recent. It is also when Hollywood was getting started. My guess is these Downeys didn't just name themselves after Downey, California. My guess is they were related to the Downeys somehow. In fact, it isn't that hard to discover, although it eluded me at first. Robert Downey's grandmother, Elizabeth McClellan, married several times. She married both Bobby Elias and James Downey. We are told that Bobby Elias is Robert Downey's grandfather, not James Downey. But why would Bobby Elias give his sons the name of his wife's ex-husband? Obviously, we are being led on several wild goose chases here. The most logical assumption given the data is that Robert Downey is both a Downey and a Ford, related to all the famous people of those names. Why else would they be fudging these genealogies? You may also be interested to know that Robert Downey's great-great-great-grandmother was named Sarah McLachlan. See current singer Sarah McLachlan. Do you want to guess where these McLachlans lived in the late 1800s? Fall River, Massachusetts, the scene of the Lizzie Borden hoax. The current Sarah McLachlan has no genealogy online. Morton Downey's paternal line also ends about that time, which is curious. Even more curious is that Morton Downey Jr.'s father is not named Morton Downey. His name is Sean Morton Downey. So how is Morton Downey a junior? Equally curious is Morton Downey Jr.'s stepmother, Margaret Schultz. Her grandmother is Gertrude Hickman. So even if Morton weren't related to Brad Pitt through the Downeys, he would be related through his stepmother. This indicates to me that we can assume he is related to Pitt through the Downeys. Morton is also linked to billionaire Wall Street financier Theodore Schultz through his stepmother, as well as Prince Alexander Conrad Maria Hohenlohe Waldenberg Schillingsfürst and Major General Anthony Biddle. Through his stepmother Anne Traynor, Downey is linked to the Randolphs, the Drexels, and the Van Rensselaers. Morton Downey is also related to the Bennetts and Morrisons. They deny Brad Pitt is related to Armand Hammer, scrubbing Armand's line after his father Julius, who is said to have come over from Russia to found the Communist Party in New York. However, Armand Hammer is admitted to be Jewish, and Pitt's Hammers were also Jewish. See Abraham Hammer, son of Aaron, husband of Rachel, father of Elijah, Isaac, Abraham, Enos, and Ezra. His sister Elizabeth married Benjamin Dickinson, and yes, this links them to Emily Dickinson, whose ancestry is Jewish in that line. See Thankful Dickinson Warner, which also links both the Pitts and the Dickinsons to the Warners. Pitt is also related to the Jacksons through the Hammers. Martha Hammer married Isaac Kearns Jackson. We are assured that these Jacksons aren't descended from Andrew Jackson, who had no children. But if we go to the page of Andrew's uncle Robert, we find it is managed by our old friend Erica Houghton. If she has been there, it means something important has been scrubbed, and I suggest that this Robert had children, although they aren't listed. Next, they admit Brad Pitt is related to his alleged wife Angelina Jolie, Voight. But as usual, they misdirect you on the nearness of that relation, telling you they are 21st cousins. I would bet we can cut that by 80%. They are obviously co-beards / close cousins, and I would guess 4th cousins or closer. In pursuit of that, we find this page, which reveals many hidden members of the Pitt clan. It is the page for Una Coker, daughter of Laura Trotter Coker. At Genie.com, this Laura Trotter Coker in Brad Pitt's line is scrubbed, which led me to search for her. One interesting thing is that Una's daughter, Betty Brown Pitt Russell. This proves Pitt is related to the Russells and extremely recently. This Betty Brown turns out to be the same person as Elizabeth Jean Brown Pitt, the grandmother of Brad. She married twice, and her second husband is Raymond M. Russell. She was still alive in 2008. So this Russell is Brad's step-grandfather. On this page, we also find Brad's great-aunts, June Brown Ventura, Mary Ann Speake Lanier, Emerlis Brown Miller, and Catherine Speake Gans, and his great-uncle, Dr. William B. Speake. We also learn of Una Coker's husband, Charles Serba. We also discover Brad's sister is Julie Neal, who married Rob Neal. Who is Rob Neal? No information is on the internet, but he is probably related to actress Patricia Neal, who may be his great-aunt. If that is the case, then he is also related to the Fitzgeralds. I would be told there are a lot of Russells, so there is no proof of Raymond Russell above is related to the famous Russells. However, given that we have already linked Brad Pitt to several lines of the peerage, we may assume this Raymond Russell is not from Chinese or Eskimo Russells. Angelina's aunt is Debbie Martin, married to a scrubbed Martin. For those who wish to do more research, that Martin would be interesting to track down. John Voight's grandmother is scrubbed, being given as Helen Nelly, with no last name. Also very suspicious. His grandfather is also scrubbed, being given a name but no ancestors. Very strange, indicating something being hidden. I suggest we change the spelling to V-O-G-T or V-O-I-G-T and try again. Those are the most common spellings. The first thing we find is that Angelina is closely related to actress Anna Paquin. One of her mother's relatives from Canada is Harriet Bertrand. She married Norman Paquin. Anna Paquin's genealogy is otherwise extremely well scrubbed. The Voight lines are too well scrubbed to make any easy links, but Angelina's great-great-great-great-grandmother is Olive Wolfe. Her great-great-great-grandmother is Rose Delama Bacon. My guess is we can cross-link to Brad Pitt through either surname. I am not going to pursue it, since I have better things to do, but the Bacons and Wolfes are both extremely prominent and extremely fertile in this period. Remember, when linking two families, you don't have to link them directly. There are several other ways to do it. Always check sibling marriages, always check step relations, and then remember you can link through a third family. If you can show both Angelina and Brad are related to Bacons, for instance, then they are also related to each other through that cross-link. If you link them through that Bacon, they are fourth cousins. I had already written that, giving up, when I went to Kevin Bacon's genealogy for the long footnote to this paper. Guess what we find there? A Trotter. Kevin's great-great-great-great-grandfather married Mary Trotter in around 1800. Since we already found a Trotter in Brad Pitt's direct line and a Bacon in Angelina Jolie's direct line, we can link them through this marriage. That would make them 5th cousins rather than 21st cousins. I would guess there is an even more recent link, but that will do to make my point. With that in mind, I remind you of the famous parlor game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you try to link two people through cross-links like this. But they want you pursuing trivial relationships through common films and such, not real kinship. Well, I guess Kevin Bacon was not chosen by accident to face this game. The game was likely invented by intelligence as both a clue and a diversion. It was probably invented in the dungeons at Langley or somewhere by the lower level spooks, after which it migrated to the general public. It could do so because it was not thought to require any clearance and was never assigned any. Kevin Bacon was chosen as the crux of the game because the Bacons really are one of the families related to everyone in the mix. The spooks could have just easily chosen a Bennett, a Russell, or a Morrison, but when the game was invented in the 1990s, no Russell, Bennett, or Morrison was as famous as Kevin Bacon. This indicates to me that he also descends from noble lines, and may be one of the highest ranking. In other words, although he is not ranked at the top of actors, he may be known by those in the know to be a prince or duke of the families. So if you've ever wondered why Hollywood seems to produce American royalty, you know why. It doesn't produce them, it promotes them. They were born from noble lines, although those lines are crypto-Jewish, and so they have first pick of these cherry jobs. Many are from hidden lines of the peerage, and many may be real dukes, earls, or barons. Remember Sacha Baron Cohen? That should probably be Baron Sacha Cohen. And they called John Wayne the Duke, remember? Why? Well, he was a Morrison, so he descends from the British peerage, like the rest of these people. He may have been an actual duke. I've shown recently that John Lennon descends from the noble Stanleys, so he may be an earl or something. If they all act like little princes and princesses, it is probably because they are. explains a lot, doesn't it? For one thing, it explains why very few of them can act. They weren't hired for their skills, they were hired because they had to be. Hollywood isn't mainly about producing good movies, as we know. Its primary function may not even be propaganda. It looks like its primary function is promoting these privileged people as interesting and important. They wish to believe they are talented, and so the media tells them and us that they are. It is the desperate attempt to sell poor actors as great actors and non-charismatic people as charismatic. That is why it is so surprising when one of these people can actually fill the bill. As with Daniel Day-Lewis or Anthony Hopkins, imagine how different the cinema would be if it were composed on merit. I've shown the same applies to the field of art, which was completely co-opted around the same time Hollywood arose. It was taken over by these same children of the privileged who wished to believe they were artists, and they utterly destroyed the entire field in short order. In fact, art has suffered far more than the cinema, since some talented people do go into film. The same cannot be said of modern art, which has attracted only the dregs of these families. Why would that be? I have suggested reasons in previous papers, including the fact that making films requires work while making modern art does not. So the laziest children of the families naturally migrate to art, where they can be feted and famous without actually doing anything. Their brothers and sisters in Hollywood still promote them mainly to be nice, so they still get their pics in the mags without having to break a sweat. Remember, this is why I got into this line of research. These talentless little freaks have stolen the field of art from people like me, and I, for one, didn't take it very well. Most others decided to accept it and move on, but that is not my style. I was born with a bad temper, and it has not mellowed with age. As I see it, as an artist, I was put here not only to create art, but to defend art and all the muses. I have been instructed by them to do that until my last breath leaves my body, and I intend to do so, without pausing to count the heads of the enemy or notice their self-applied crowns and coronets. Kevin Bacon is, in fact, related to Sir Francis Bacon. His direct paternal line goes back to James Bacon, Sheriff of London, who was the brother of Sir Nicholas Bacon. Sir Nicholas was the father of Sir Francis Bacon. The Bacon line goes back to Ralph Bacon in the year 900. In that line is also Grimbaldus the Norman. This links Kevin to the Lowes, the Redgraves, the Peppers. You remember Sergeant Pepper? The Shelleys, the Nelsons, the Pryors, the Wests, the Watsons, the Ellises, the Holmes, the Waltons, who also go back to the 900s, the Thorpes, the Cages, the Reeves, the Cranes, the Morrises, the Proctors, the Hussies, the Huttons, the Becketts, the Armitages, the Hickmans, and so on. So yes, Kevin is a central figure in the clan. Kevin is also related to the Sayers. That is Zelda Fitzgerald's maiden name, remember? Amusingly, in about 1300, a John Bacon married Cecily Who, of the Luton Whos. This may be where Dr. Seuss got the Whos down in Whoville. Kevin Bacon is also linked to both Salem, Massachusetts and Salem, New Jersey. And that is the end of Miles Mathis's paper on Brad Pitts Genealogy. So if anybody knows much about Hollywood, and I mean real Hollywood, I don't mean just, you read magazines and you know about these people. Everybody knows about these people. But what I mean is, the cults they're involved with, the Satanism and stuff. After reading Miles Mathis, he always states that intelligence, or that Satanism is a cover for intelligence. And I totally see where he's going with that, because the Satanism angle is always thrown in with, I don't know if this is real, but a lot of the serial killing cases are satanic. They've got the imagery, the rituals, and all this stuff, and a lot of them are faked. And I'm not saying all of them are faked, but Hollywood is pumping Satanism like crazy, and it can't be denied. And I don't know. After reading Miles Mathis, I don't know if Satanic Hollywood is legitimately satanic or is pretending to be satanic. And this is where I kind of just need to figure it out, because in my opinion, I don't think, from what I know, these papers range quite a lot of years. So in the papers that I've read of Miles Mathis is that he's not a Christian. He's not an atheist. He's just open, I guess. He's not sure. Or though he may be, I don't know, because I haven't read all his papers. But as far as I know, he is just, I guess what you would call a skeptic. But I've read and studied the Bible. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I can go on and on about why I am or whatnot, but from what I've learned in the Bible about Satanism, and just it's crazy that a book randomly written, claimed by skeptics or people who don't believe that the Bible is a genuine book, it talks about this stuff for thousands of years. This stuff's going on. It talks about the lineages. There is a vast genealogical record in the Bible. When I was going through, I can't remember exactly what book in the Bible. There's a few that list the genealogies. It's so funny going through Miles's paper and seeing him go through all these genealogies, because the Bible does the same thing, and it does that to have a record of these people and what they're doing. And going into the Satanism of Hollywood, I believe that it's real. Even though I kind of don't know, Miles Mathis might say that it's all just a cover to distract you, or to confuse you, or to just get people to change society, whatever. But I believe it is real Satanism. I believe that all of this is rooted in Satanism. I don't think that intelligence uses Satanism. I think that Satanism uses intelligence. And when I say intelligence, I mean the intelligence agencies, the CIA, etc. Does that mean that everybody that works in intelligence is a Satanist? No. The people who control intelligence are Satanists. The ruling families, the Rothschilds, all of these ruling families you always hear about, they either worship Satan, or they either pretend to worship Satan, or they actually do. There's overwhelming evidence for this stuff. Marina Abramovich, is she just faking it? Is she a pretend witch? She could be. I don't know. I don't know why she would be. But there's a lot of psychology at play there. But I really do believe that Hollywood, just like he's showing here, they're all related to each other. They're all from crypto-Jewish families. For some reason, these crypto-Jews just are absolutely in love with Satan. And the Bible talks about this. The Bible talks about these conspiracies coming to a head. It talks about financial conspiracies in the banking industry coming to a head in the end times. It says, beware of Jews who claim to be Jews, but who are not Jews. Okay? And this is kind of interesting, because when we go into the crypto-Jewish families, they are Jews, although they don't claim to be. So that is a little bit confusing, but I think the proper way this should be read in the Bible is that these people the crypto-Jews are not even Jewish, naturally. You can't just convert to Judaism and then become genetically a Jew. Okay, you can practice the Jewish faith, but there's a difference between a Jewish man and a man who converted to Judaism. So what the Bible is saying is, beware of these people who are Ashkenazi Jews. And for people who don't know what Ashkenazi Jews are, these are the people, they lived in Khazaria, in a country called Khazaria, and they were forced by, I believe, Genghis Khan to, and by the way, I don't know if every detail of this history is correct. I'm just going off of what I know. So, from what I know is that these people came from Khazaria. They're called Ashkenazi. They created the Nazis because that's the last four letters of Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi. They weren't even Jew. Like Hitler, he's a crypto Jew. No, he's a crypto Ashkenazi Jew, which means he comes from a group of people who converted to Judaism in around, I can't remember exactly when. It could have been as early as 700 or 1300, but it's around that. Wait. When was Genghis Khan around? So whenever Genghis Khan was around, was when, I think it could have been 1300s. And that's when the Ashkenazis had to choose a religion, because Genghis Khan did not want to deal with people who weren't religious, because you cannot, well, this is just my theory, because he was not able, when you know that somebody is of a certain religious sect, then you can control them easier, because you know what they want, you know what they like, and you know details about them. But if they're not religious, then it's hard to know how to control them. Okay, so they chose Judaism, and ever since, they've been infiltrating Europe. They've been infiltrating a lot of our... These are all of these Jews that are causing problems. They're not real Jews. This is what the Bible says. Beware of those who claim to be Jews but are not. They claim to be Jews. They've claimed to be Jews for a very long time, but it doesn't make them genetically Jews. So the Bible really warns us about this stuff thousands of years ago. And if you find some of this stuff with the Bible interesting, I highly suggest that you study it. There's lots of reasons why the Bible is supernatural. Some of the easiest ones are just the general prophecies that are talked about in the Bible that are active right now. And we see it in these genealogies, we see it with these people, we see it with the corruption and the evil and the Satanism. So to round out my opinion on this whole piece is, all of these people come from satanic families. They are connected through the network of their huge families. When they're brought up in these families, they are taught about this stuff. They are told, hey, look, you are from the Pitt family. We are Pitts. This is our genealogy. You have a role in our family in at least knowing that you're a part of this. I'm sure that there are plenty of people from these families who want nothing to do with Satanism or any of this stuff, and they just wander off and do their own thing. I'm sure that happens. But a lot of these people who come up in Hollywood who we think, oh, they just became famous. No, they're not. They're being promoted. They're a huge distraction. Again, what this is all about is just keeping us distracted, keeping us entertained, and keeping us controlled. What if you have famous people out there who have millions of followers who get into conspiracy and start saying, oh, hey, yo, everybody, look at all this crazy stuff that's happening. They cannot allow that. They cannot allow people who are not controlled to be famous. Because if you get a platform and you have millions of people, you can wake them up really quickly. You can wake them up very quickly by just pointing out simple stuff. This is what I find, this is awesome about Miles Mathis, because he doesn't throw out crazy theories. All of this stuff is common sense, it's logical. The only thing that seems very outlandish to me is when I actually have gone over a lot of conspiracies, and they're incredible. The lizard people are running things. Everyone, there's aliens flying around and all this stuff. Man, are people going to be really surprised when some of these truths come out, at just how deep this deception goes. You know, they don't care what you believe, as long as it's not the truth. They've got aliens for you. They have races of people living within the earth. They've got, and I don't know 100% if all of this stuff is just complete nonsense or whatever, but when you get into the realm of conspiracy, it gets pretty nutty. But if you read Miles Mathis, you can just see that it's so much easier to fake all of that stuff, so that people get latched onto it. People need to realize that it is the ultimate distraction. Hollywood is distracting you, okay? The government is distracting you. Social issues are all a huge distraction. Politicians are actors. They're closely related to Hollywood, because their job, literally, their job is to get up there and to just read the teleprompter, get into scripted arguments with the other side, get on camera and tell everybody that they're working their hardest for the benefit of everybody. They're not doing anything. They're signing their names on bills that are written by think tanks that are owned by these satanic families. And these satanic families have systems in place. And then you see the figurehead. Oh, hey, there's the actor or the writer behind the movie. I have no idea if they actually wrote that movie, but they're acting in it. And here's the face. This is the emotional attachment you can have to this. This is why this stuff works so well. It's because they control it from the top. I'll bring up PewDiePie again. The guy's got an incredible following on YouTube. 90 million. That's insane. That's insane, the amount of reach he has. But in my opinion, he's not controlled by these satanic families. He might be. I don't know. I've seen a bunch of his videos. He seems like a great guy. He doesn't seem to be pushing anything except comedy and having a good time with what he's doing online. But if he were to get into conspiracy stuff and start pointing these things out, and I'm using it as an example, and I noticed on his forearm that PewDiePie has this tattoo of an eye, and I don't know when he got it, but it seems kind of new. And there were a couple times when he pushed into topics that were a little controversial, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but maybe it was some social issues or whatever, and he got a lot of backlash. And PewDiePie is relentlessly attacked by the media. And they always make fun of him. They always try to downplay they always call his followers a bunch of 9-year-olds, children, which is not true at all. But they're always trying to dismiss him because he's not controlled by them, in my opinion. That may have changed recently. I saw the tattoo of that eye on his arm, and I was just like, it reminds me of the Illuminati eye, and this guy's a big deal. He's got a lot of influence. Maybe they had a little private meeting with PewDiePie and said, hey, look, Felix, here's what you're not going to talk about. And there's so many different ways that they can do this. They can do it in like an intimidation, where they bust into your home, or they're just home while you come back, and they're just like, hey, look, we make the rules, and here's what you're going to do, and here's what you're not going to do. And if you don't listen to us, we're going to murder your girlfriend, or kill your dog, or cause problems for you. And your popularity is going to go away overnight because we're going to restrict what you're doing, whatever. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do all of these threats, but threats sometimes are enough to make somebody comply. So maybe he got a tattoo on his arm as a sign to the Illuminati to say, hey, I'm not a part of you, but I could be just towing the line. Okay? I'm just throwing out an example. I have no idea. But when you compare that to people in Hollywood are never really doing much except getting in front of cameras whenever they need to make a social event or whatever, and they're all just out there to do what they're doing, which is making movies and entertaining people. They're not out there trying to educate people or encouraging anything that would help society. They're just there to distract you. They're there to make the blockbuster. They're there to keep your attention, and they're there to hold your attention. Because these people are controlled. You always need to be paying attention to them and no one else. And this ties into a lot of Miles's work, where he's saying, like, look, this is all a distraction. People have a hard time believing that this stuff could be faked because they just don't understand the psychology of it. Why would they fake serial murders? A lot of reasons. So they could pass more laws that gives them more control over you. Okay, the more serial killers, the more fear you have. The more people are going to be afraid to connect with other people. I don't want to talk to that guy across the street. He might be a serial killer. He might be a weirdo. I've seen so much of it on TV. It must be true. But I'm rambling now, so I'll just go ahead and end it here, and I'll see you in the next one.